AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids live with me, even though she claims I'm being selfish? This is going to be a long one, but I want to be thorough so that people can understand my side. I, 32F, have always been pretty independent. I live alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment, work a full-time job in tech, and have a routine that I'm very attached to. I like my space, my quiet, and my control of my daily life. My sister, Megan, 28F, has always been a bit of a mess when it comes to planning her life. She's had 3 kids in the last 5 years and has been through a lot, but she's also made choices that, honestly, I think she should have thought through more. A couple of months ago, Megan came to me in tears saying that she had just been evicted from her apartment because her landlord was selling the building and she didn't have anywhere else to go. She's been moving around a lot, staying with friends, and basically relying on charity and short-term leases. She asked if her 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 3, could stay with me temporarily until she figured things out. At the time, I was sympathetic. I offered her advice on contacting social services, emergency housing programs, and even offered to help her research daycare and school options. But I did not offer my apartment. I told her flat out that I couldn't accommodate her kids here because I live alone in a 2-bedroom place, my rent is high, and my schedule is tight. I also explained that I work from home often and don't have the mental bandwidth to take care of 3 kids full-time. Megan's reaction surprised me. She got really upset and accused me of being selfish. She said that family is supposed to step up for each other and that I could make space somehow, if I cared. She even brought up that I make more money than her and that I should be able to afford it. I tried to explain that I do care, but caring doesn't mean I can ignore my limits or suddenly transform my apartment into a daycare center. She started texting and calling me constantly, guilt-tripping me about how she's struggling and how the kids would be traumatized if she had to live in shelters or with strangers. I set firm boundaries, offering to pay for some hotels or short-term rental assistance, help her apply for government aid, and even watch the kids for a few hours during the day if she needed to run errands or go to work. But she kept pushing the idea that the kids needed to live with me. She started bringing up my obligation as the older sister and even made vague threats about cutting me out of family gatherings if I didn't help. Things came to a head last week. She called me crying, saying that the kids were now with a friend's relative temporarily, but that it was not safe, and she begged me again. She even started crying over the phone, saying that I couldn't love her kids if I didn't take them in. I told her the same thing I've been telling her for weeks. I love her and the kids, but I have my own life and boundaries, and this is not something I can take on. She hung up and hasn't spoken to me since. Meanwhile, some family members are getting involved. My parents think I'm being unreasonable, saying that I should do something for my niece and nephews. My cousins have messaged me to say that I'm being cold and that family comes first. On the other hand, some friends have said that I'm completely justified and that it's not my responsibility to house 3 children, especially when I've tried to help in other ways. The thing that really frustrates me is that Megan had multiple opportunities to plan better. She chose to have 3 kids in a short time while living in a precarious housing situation. I don't think it's fair for me to disrupt my life for months or potentially longer because she didn't plan ahead. I also worry about how chaotic it would be with 3 young kids in my tiny apartment. I've thought about it nonstop, but the thought of taking them in makes me anxious, exhausted, and honestly resentful. I don't want to resent the kids for circumstances they didn't create, and I don't want my relationship with Megan to become toxic because of forced cohabitation. I guess I feel torn. Part of me feels guilty because these are my sister's children and their family. I don't want them to be in shelters or unsafe situations. But another part of me feels that it's not my responsibility to solve every problem she's created, especially when I've already tried to help in every way I can without taking them into my home. So, Reddit, AITA here, am I really being selfish for not letting 3 kids live in my apartment, even temporarily, when my sister claims they have nowhere else to go? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? while working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for potentially ruining my family's Thanksgiving over a harmless joke. I, 28F, have always been known in my family as the funny one. I love making people laugh and generally try to lighten the mood at gatherings. My family, for the most part, enjoys it, but I'll admit my humor can be a little biting sometimes. My parents, both 55, and my younger brother, Alex, 25, usually find it funny, although my older sister, Jenna, 32, has always been a bit more sensitive. This year, Thanksgiving fell on a Thursday, and my parents had invited both sides of the family over to their house. Usually, I love these gatherings. I cook a dish or two, help with setup, and then relax with everyone else. This year, I decided to bring a twist, a comedy roast game where we would gently roast each other. I've been inspired by some online trends and thought it would be a fun icebreaker. I made sure to emphasize that it was all meant in good fun, and anyone could opt out if they didn't want to participate. Everyone agreed to play. The gathering started normally, with the usual chaos of cooking smells, football on TV, and kids running around. We ate, laughed, and everything seemed perfect. After dessert, I brought out my roast cards and explained the rules. Everyone laughed at the concept, and people were surprisingly eager to participate. It started out lighthearted. My dad joked about his expertise in burning toast. Alex joked about my obsession with obscure indie movies, and my mom laughed at my dad's dad jokes. Then it was Jenna's turn. I had jokingly prepared a card that said, "The family thinks you're a perfectionist, but we all know you just enjoy bossing people around." I intended it to be playful. After all, we have joked about her being a bit controlling since we were kids. When I read it aloud, there was a moment of silence. Jenna looked off. Her face went pale, and she crossed her arms. I laughed nervously and said, "Just kidding, you know we love you," but she didn't respond. Her husband, Mark, 34, then commented under his breath, "Wow, really?" And Jenna got visibly upset. I tried to backtrack, saying, "It was all in fun. You know, I didn't mean anything serious," but Jenna snapped. She said I had humiliated her in front of everyone, that I always did this, and that it wasn't funny. She stormed off to her room, leaving Mark awkwardly at the table. At this point, everyone else was uncomfortable. My parents told me I should apologize, and Alex shrugged nervously. I did apologize multiple times, but Jenna refused to speak to me for the rest of the evening. The rest of the family seemed tense, and the fun mood I had worked so hard to cultivate had completely vanished. The next day, Jenna texted me a long message explaining that while she understood it was supposed to be a joke, it still felt humiliating and that I should have known better than to make that kind of joke in front of the whole family. She also said that she felt like I was trying to make her look bad and that I had ruined Thanksgiving. I responded, apologizing again and trying to explain that my intent was never to humiliate her, but to create a fun, inclusive game for the family. I explained that I thought everyone, including her, would take it lightly, since we have teased each other before. She didn't reply. Since then, our family group chat has been icy. My parents said they didn't want to take sides, but hinted that I should tone it down in the future. Alex said he didn't think I did anything wrong, but admitted he was also uncomfortable. Some extended family members reached out to ask if everything was okay, and I tried to explain it without bad-mouthing anyone. I feel terrible that I ruined Jenna's evening, but I also feel frustrated because I honestly didn't think my joke was that offensive. I have always teased her in the past, and we've laughed about similar things before. I genuinely didn't mean to hurt her. On the other hand, I do recognize that she might have felt singled out, and maybe I misjudged the situation. Now, a few days later, I'm stuck. I don't know whether I overstepped or if Jenna is overreacting. I've apologized multiple times, but she hasn't responded. I'm worried this will have long-term effects on our relationship, and my parents are clearly upset that the holiday was tense. So, Reddit, AITA for trying to make Thanksgiving fun with a roast game that ended up upsetting my sister? Or was this just an unfortunate misreading of her sense of humor? I want to make things right without making it worse, but I also don't want to feel like I have to walk on eggshells at every family gathering. The whole situation has left me questioning whether it's possible to be funny and sensitive at the same time. I know my humor could be sharp, but I thought I could gauge the room. Clearly, I'm misjudged this time, and it's making me anxious about all future family events. So, Reddit, AITA here. Character count, 6,457. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after a major family secret came out. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Megan, 32F. Growing up, we were close at times, but our parents often pitted us against each other, and Megan has always been very controlling and manipulative. Despite that, I've tried to maintain some sort of bond because I genuinely love her and wanted our relationship to improve as we got older. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, Megan got engaged to her fiancé, Ryan, 35M. Initially, I was thrilled for her, but as the planning started, her controlling tendencies became more obvious. She insisted that I help with all the decorations, organize the bridal shower, and even coordinate the seating arrangements for the rehearsal dinner. I agreed, albeit reluctantly, because I thought this was part of being a good sister. Everything was going fine until 2 months ago when a huge bombshell dropped. I was at our parents' house for dinner, and during a casual conversation, my mom mentioned that Ryan had a child from a previous relationship that Megan hadn't told anyone about, not even the rest of the family. At first, I thought maybe my mom was joking or misinformed, but after pressing her, she confirmed it. Ryan has an 8-year-old son, whom Megan never mentioned to any of us. She told my parents that she didn't want the family to judge Ryan, and that she would introduce him after the wedding, when things had settled down. I was shocked. First, because she lied about something huge, and second, because she seemed completely unconcerned about how this would affect her relationship with her family. I felt blindsided, and I couldn't imagine why anyone would want to keep such a significant part of their life hidden from the people closest to them. I confronted Megan about it, and that's when things escalated. She got defensive and said, "It's not your business, and I don't owe anyone an explanation. Ryan's child isn't a threat to you, so stop acting like it is." I tried to explain that it wasn't about the child being a threat, but about honesty and trust. She dismissed me and stormed off. After that, I started pulling back from wedding planning. I stopped coordinating the seating, canceled my help with the shower, and began distancing myself emotionally. Megan noticed and repeatedly called me, accusing me of being selfish and unsupportive. I told her I was hurt by the secrecy and that I couldn't be part of something that was built on dishonesty. She said that if I didn't attend, I'd be betraying the family and destroying the wedding experience. Things got even worse last week. Megan posted on social media about the upcoming wedding, showing photos of her with Ryan and teasing the big surprise about his son. My parents called me, urging me to attend the wedding and telling me that Megan was going through enough stress and I shouldn't make it worse. My friends are split. Some say I should just go to keep the peace, while others think Megan is being unreasonable. I've tried to reason with her multiple times. I even said I could attend if she at least told me the truth about Ryan's child directly, not through social media or her parents. She refused and said she'd deal with it her way. I feel like if I go, I'm enabling her manipulative behavior and betraying my own values about honesty and trust. Now, I'm stuck in this dilemma. I really want to have a relationship with Megan, but I can't shake the feeling that attending her wedding without confronting this issue would be wrong. On the other hand, my parents and other family members are pressuring me, saying I'll regret it if I don't go and that it will create a permanent rift. I'm exhausted and emotionally drained. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she lied about a major family issue? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she made me choose between my fiancé and her? This is going to be a long one, so I appreciate anyone who reads it all. I, 28F, have been with my fiancé, Tom, 30M, for 4 years. We live together, are planning our future, and everything has been going really well. My sister, Julia, 32F, has always been competitive with me, and honestly, some of it is harmless sibling rivalry, but other times it crosses boundaries. She's always been the golden child type and seems to expect everyone to bend around her life events. A few months ago, Julia got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark. When she announced her wedding date, I was genuinely happy for her. I offered to help in any way I could, knowing that weddings are stressful. Things were fine for a while, but then the drama started. Julia started dropping hints that she wanted all her family and friends to behave in a very particular way. For instance, she made it clear that she didn't want drama at the wedding and hinted that Tom's personality might be a problem. Tom is generally quiet but can be sarcastic at times, and he occasionally jokes in ways that some might find edgy. Julia apparently thinks his humor is inappropriate for family events, which honestly, I didn't expect her to care about. A month before the wedding, Julia called me and told me that she and Mark had discussed seating arrangements and that they weren't comfortable having Tom at the wedding. She claimed he had been problematic in the past, citing an incident from years ago when we all went on a family vacation and Tom got into a minor argument with Julia's then boyfriend over something stupid. I reminded her that it had been years and that Tom had apologized at the time, but she said it wasn't enough and that they didn't want him there. I was shocked. I told her that I couldn't imagine attending my sister's wedding without my fiancé. She immediately asked me to choose. She framed it as a moral dilemma, her happiness versus mine. I explained that I loved her, but that Tom is my partner, and I was not going to exclude him from such an important family event. Julia accused me of being selfish, saying that if I truly loved her, I would sacrifice one day for her happiness. I tried reasoning with her, saying that we could all meet halfway. Maybe Tom could stay on his best behavior, avoid any alcohol, sit quietly, and still be respectful. But she refused to compromise. She insisted that it had to be an all-or-nothing situation. I felt torn because I do love my sister, and I know this day is important to her. But at the same time, I felt manipulated. I've never been in a situation where a family member asked me to choose between my partner and them over a wedding. I tried talking to my parents, hoping they would help mediate, but they were surprisingly passive. They said that Julia is very particular about her wedding and that I should do what I feel is best, which I interpreted as them backing me up, but they clearly weren't willing to intervene with Julia. After several long conversations, I told Julia that I would not attend the wedding if Tom wasn't welcome. She responded by unfriending me on social media and sending a group message to the extended family explaining that I'd chosen my fiancé over family and that she was heartbroken. The message was dramatic and painted me as the villain, which upset me because I had tried repeatedly to compromise. I ended up having a quiet dinner with Tom the night of the wedding instead. I was sad, but I also felt relieved not to be in the middle of what I knew would be a tense event. I heard later from some relatives who went to the wedding that Julia spent a lot of the day complaining about me and how I had chosen poorly, which honestly hurt more than I expected. A few family members reached out to me afterward, saying they understood why I stayed home and that I made the right choice for myself. But Julia has not spoken to me since. She has blocked me on multiple platforms and refuses to respond to calls or messages. Now, a few months later, I'm reflecting on whether I overreacted. Some friends say I'm in the right for standing by my partner and refusing to be manipulated. Others say I should have gone to the wedding alone to preserve my relationship with my sister, especially since I know she values family so much. I keep thinking about the way she forced me into a corner and whether my refusal to attend has permanently damaged our relationship. I want to clarify that I'm not trying to punish Julia or ruin her day. I genuinely would have gone if she had been reasonable about including Tom. But being forced to choose between her happiness and my relationship with Tom felt unfair and emotionally manipulative. I can't help but feel like I did the only thing I could do without compromising my values and my relationship. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she made me choose between her and my fiancé? Character count, 6,340 if you want. I can write an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters with extra family drama, more backstory, and more conversations to make it feel exactly like a highly upvoted Reddit AITA post. Do you want me to expand it to that level? AITA for refusing to lie to my sister about our fathers, well, even though it caused a huge family fight. This is going to be long, but I want to give the full context because I genuinely don't know if I was in the wrong. I, 32M, recently became involved in a family dispute that spiraled out of control, and now my extended family is calling me cold and selfish. I really need an outsider's perspective. So here's the background. My father passed away unexpectedly about 6 months ago. His will was surprisingly specific about how his assets were to be divided, which is important because it's part of the conflict. My dad had 3 children: me, my sister Jessica, 30F, and my younger brother Mark, 28M. We've all had a complicated relationship with him, especially Jessica, who always had a very controlling and dependent dynamic with him. My dad left most of his estate evenly split between the 3 of us, but he left the house entirely to Mark. He also left a small sum of money in a separate account to Jessica, which, in my opinion, seemed like it was meant to give her some independence, as she's always struggled to manage finances. I wasn't involved in the reading of the will officially because it was handled by a lawyer, but Mark and I saw a copy when we were sorting through the legal paperwork. Here's where things get complicated. Jessica reached out to me a few days after the will reading and started crying on the phone. She said she felt like Dad didn't love her equally because she got less than Mark and me. I tried to reassure her gently, explaining that he left her money, which is actually a significant sum, but she kept insisting that it wasn't fair. Eventually, she asked me if I would help her. She wanted me to tell her that the will was different from what it actually said, specifically that she was supposed to get the house and more money. She said it was for her peace of mind, that she couldn't handle knowing she was getting less. I froze. At first, I tried to find a middle ground, like explaining that legally the will was what it was and lying wouldn't change anything. But she begged me, saying it would make her feel loved by Dad and that she could deal with the shock later. She promised not to tell anyone, and she begged me to just say something small, just enough to make me happy for a while. I couldn't do it. I told her flat out that I couldn't lie to her. I explained that the will was legally binding, and lying about it could backfire in ways that could hurt all of us. I tried to emphasize that it didn't mean Dad loved her any less, and that he probably had reasons for the way he divided things, but she wasn't listening. The next day, Jessica went to Mark and accused me of keeping information from her and of being on Mark's side. I tried to explain what happened, but she had already spun it into a bigger story, claiming that I was deliberately trying to make her miserable. Mark and I ended up having a long argument because he thought I should have just told her what she wanted to hear to avoid conflict. I said that would be lying and that her emotions didn't justify deceiving her, even temporarily. It didn't stop there. Jessica then called our cousins, our aunt and uncle, and even my mom, who is divorced from Dad but still very involved, and told them that I was withholding the will information from her. Suddenly, I was the bad sibling in everyone's eyes. I tried to sit down with her calmly and again explain my reasoning, but she refused to listen. She started sending me texts like, "I hope you realize how cruel you're being, and you're going to regret this when everyone sees the truth." The tension escalated to the point where family dinners are now basically impossible. At the last one, she confronted me in front of the whole extended family and said that I was manipulating the will to make myself look better and that I didn't care about anyone else's feelings. Mark sided with me quietly, but most of the rest of the family is still upset with me for not helping Jessica cope. I feel awful that my relationship with Jessica has deteriorated so much, but I also feel like lying to her would have been worse. I have thought about whether I could have handled it differently, maybe by being more gentle, giving her emotional support, or helping her see the money as a way to start her independence. But the request to lie about the will itself still feels fundamentally wrong to me. I want to note that this isn't about money for me. I already have my share, and I don't care about her getting the house or the money. It's purely about honesty and boundaries. The problem is that my refusal has made me seem like the villain in the eyes of many family members, and Jessica is now actively spreading the narrative that I was intentionally cruel. So, Reddit, here's the question. AITA for refusing to lie to my sister about our fathers, well, even though it caused a huge family fight? I feel like I was trying to be responsible and honest, but I also can't deny that it hurt her feelings, and now I'm being blamed for the fallout. I know family dynamics are complicated, but I feel like my moral obligation to honesty should outweigh a temporary comfort, especially when lying could have serious consequences if discovered. That said, The constant messages and judgment from everyone else have made me second-guess myself. Am I really in the wrong here? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my house, even though my family says I'm being unreasonable. I, 29F, have been living in my current apartment for about 4 years. It's a small one-bedroom unit in a decent part of town, and honestly, it's been perfect for me. It's affordable, cozy, and a place I genuinely like coming home to after work. My sister, 32F, recently got engaged to a guy she's been dating for about a year. Let's call him Mark. Mark has a complicated living situation. He had been renting with a roommate, but apparently the roommate got tired of his lifestyle, which includes leaving dishes out for days, playing video games until 3 a.m., and a host of other small but annoying habits. My sister told me this in passing, and I was a bit concerned because I know her fiancé isn't exactly the most considerate person. I've met him a few times, and he seems fine in short doses, but I could already tell that living together could be challenging. About 2 weeks ago, my sister called me in a panic. Mark's roommate had given him a 30-day notice, and he supposedly had nowhere to go. My sister suggested that he move in with me temporarily. She framed it as just until he finds a place of his own, which they assured me would be no more than 2 months. They said he would pay for groceries, help with chores, and basically keep to himself. I immediately felt uneasy. My apartment is small. I work long hours and like my personal space. I also have a few sensitive habits, like needing quiet mornings to meditate and working on freelance projects from home that require a lot of focus. Adding a new person, especially someone I barely know, seemed like a recipe for disaster. I told my sister that I didn't feel comfortable having Mark move in, even temporarily. She reacted very negatively. She said I was selfish and not being a good sister. She argued that this was a family emergency and that I should step up to help. I tried explaining that it wasn't about refusing to help her or Mark. It was about protecting my own space and mental health. She got even more upset, saying I was letting my comfort come before family, which hurt because I've always been the one trying to support both of them emotionally, financially when I could, and even helping plan her wedding. I stood firm. I suggested alternative options. Maybe Mark could rent a short-term sublet, stay with a friend, or even consider an extended stay hotel while he got back on his feet. My sister dismissed all of these ideas, saying they were expensive or impractical. She also mentioned that our parents think I'm overreacting and that I should just suck it up. Over the next few days, my sister and Mark began putting subtle pressure on me. They would drop by my apartment just to see if it might work, bring up how uncomfortable it was for Mark to be without a home, and even try guilt-tripping me with lines like, "You know I'd do the same for you if you were in trouble." I reiterated my stance every time, but tensions grew. Then came the breaking point. A mutual friend mentioned that my sister had started telling people that I was being cold and selfish because I wouldn't let Mark move in. I found out she was even telling Mark that I didn't really care about our family. At this point, I was furious, not just at her, but at Mark for apparently going along with it. I texted both of them, stating clearly that while I cared about them, my apartment was not an emergency shelter and that I had the right to say no. My family has now split into camps. My parents and sister accuse me of being cruel and lacking compassion. They say it's a one-time favor and that I'm ruining the family dynamic. Some friends and distant relatives say I'm perfectly within my rights, pointing out that I'm not obligated to let someone live in my home, especially someone I barely know and who could make my life miserable. I understand their argument that it's a temporary inconvenience, but I can't shake the feeling that my boundaries are being completely ignored. My apartment is the only private sanctuary I have, and I can't risk my mental health or comfort for what feels like a favor that could easily become permanent. I don't want to burn bridges, but I also can't let myself be guilt-tripped into letting someone move and who could disrupt my life. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my apartment, even temporarily, even though my family thinks I'm being unreasonable. AITA for refusing to let my sister crash at my house after she completely destroyed her last rental. I, 32M, have always been the responsible one in my family. I work a stable job in IT, have a decent apartment, and try to keep my life organized. My younger sister, Lily, 27F, has never been great with money or living arrangements. She moves around a lot, rarely holds a steady job for more than a few months, and has a long history of being evicted from apartments. My parents have supported her for years, but recently they've had to put their foot down because they can't keep bailing her out financially. Last week, I got a call from Lily. She sounded panicked and was practically begging me to let her stay at my apartment for a few weeks. She said her latest rental had been suddenly condemned due to plumbing issues and that she didn't have anywhere else to go. I asked her some questions, trying to get a clearer picture. She couldn't give me an exact address for the place she'd been renting and was vague about the circumstances of why she had to leave so suddenly. Something felt off. I've let Lily stay with me before, but it has always been a headache. The first time was right after college when she had nowhere to go, and while she was there, she didn't pay rent, left dishes piled up for days, and once broke a ceiling fan because she tried to fix it herself. The second time, she stayed for about 3 months while she was finding work, but she barely contributed to utilities, constantly brought friends over without asking, and left the apartment in a mess that I had to clean up myself. So when she called this time, my gut told me that letting her stay with me again would be a disaster. I explained to her that I wasn't comfortable having her live with me, especially on short notice, and suggested she look into temporary rentals, friends, or even a hostel if she needed somewhere to stay while figuring things out. She started crying over the phone and said, "You're the only person who ever cares about me. Don't you love me anymore?" I didn't know what to say. I told her I do love her, but I can't let her stay. I also reminded her of the previous times she stayed with me and the stress it caused. She got angrier, accusing me of being selfish and heartless, and claiming that I was treating her like a burden. She even said, "I thought you were my family. You're supposed to help me when I need it." I haven't responded since. I've been trying to figure out if I was really being unreasonable. On one hand, it's my apartment and my responsibility to maintain it, and I don't want to let history repeat itself. On the other hand, she is my sister, and I know she's in a difficult position. But I honestly feel like if I cave this time, it will just be a cycle again. Her staying without paying, making a mess, creating tension, and then eventually leaving abruptly. The situation has now caused a huge rift in the family. My parents are upset with me because they feel I should help her, even temporarily. They say I'm being cold, and that families should always have each other's back. My friends mostly say I'm within my rights, but some have suggested I at least let her stay for a few days, just to help her get back on her feet. I even started doubting myself because of how desperate she sounded. She said she doesn't have anywhere else to go, and I can't help but feel guilty. But I keep thinking back to the last time she stayed with me. She left the kitchen covered in grease, didn't pay a single cent in utilities, and then disappeared for a week without notice. I honestly can't trust that she would respect my space this time. I've considered offering alternatives, like helping her find a hostel, paying for a night or two at a hotel, or connecting her with a friend of hers who might have a room, but she doesn't want that. She keeps insisting she needs to be at my apartment. I've tried explaining my reasoning logically, pointing out the past issues and the stress it caused, but it's been met with tears, guilt-tripping, and more accusations of selfishness. Now I'm worried that by sticking to my decision, I'm making her feel abandoned and that I'm damaging our relationship permanently. At the same time, I've had friends over before, and I can't imagine putting myself through that stress again. I like my routines, my space, and frankly, I've realized I can't keep enabling her irresponsible behavior. I also feel that setting boundaries is important for both of us, even if it makes her upset now. So now I'm stuck. I know families should help each other, but I also feel that helping her in this way would hurt both of us in the long run. I'm trying to stick to my principles without becoming the bad brother, but it's impossible to avoid guilt when she's crying on the phone, claiming I don't care. I've started seeing this as a pattern that will repeat endlessly if I give in. But I'm still unsure if I'm being heartless or if I should bend the rules just this once. I genuinely want her to get back on her feet, but I feel like letting her stay here would only delay her taking responsibility. AITA for refusing to let my sister stay with me after her latest housing disaster, considering our past experiences. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog to my wedding after she threw a fit about it. I, 32F, have been planning my wedding for almost 2 years. My fiancé, James, 34M, and I have always been very clear about the vibe we wanted: a relatively small, elegant ceremony at a vineyard with around 80 guests. We both love animals, but we're not dog owners, and our venue doesn't allow pets indoors for safety and allergy reasons. We thought this was reasonable and didn't expect any drama. Boy, were we wrong. The main source of tension has been my younger sister, Emma, 28F. Emma is very attached to her dog, Charlie, a 6-year-old golden retriever who she treats like a child. She adopted him when she moved out for college, and over the years, she has become almost obsessed with him. Emma has a history of exaggerating things to get her way and tends to overreact if she feels slighted, but I honestly didn't anticipate how extreme it would get with the wedding. When I first mentioned to her that pets weren't allowed at the venue, she laughed and said, "Oh, come on, it's just Charlie. Everyone loves him. Can't he come?" I explained the rules, as well as my desire to have a calm, stress-free ceremony. I offered to help her find a dog sitter or boarding facility for the day, but apparently that wasn't good enough. She said, "No way. I'm not leaving him alone. This is my brother's big day, yes, but he's my family too. You're asking me to abandon my kid." I tried to reason with her multiple times, reminding her that we weren't saying she couldn't come, just that Charlie couldn't. I even offered to take her out for a pre-wedding photo shoot with Charlie, so she could get some special pictures together, but she dismissed it. Every conversation turned into a lecture about how heartless and selfish we were being. I started to get frustrated, but tried to remain calm, thinking she would eventually see that our request wasn't unreasonable. Things escalated when I sent out the final invitations. Emma called me in tears, saying she couldn't come without Charlie and accusing me of choosing the dog over my family. I was taken aback. I told her that wasn't true, that we love her and want her there, but we need to follow the venue's rules and maintain a certain atmosphere. She responded by saying she didn't see why a simple dog could ruin a wedding, implying that our whole celebration was trivial and selfish. At this point, I involved James, thinking maybe he could calm her down, but that only made things worse. He tried to explain the practical reasons: allergies, insurance, liability, and the stress of managing a dog around food, drinks, and dozens of guests. Emma then started saying things like, "You guys clearly don't care about family, only appearances, and I can't believe I have to choose between my brother's wedding and my dog." She even hinted that she might not attend, which honestly broke my heart. I decided to compromise by allowing her to bring Charlie for the rehearsal dinner at our house, where he could be present but not interfere with the ceremony. I thought this was generous, considering she wasn't even supposed to bring him to any wedding-related events. She initially agreed, but then sent me a long message the next day saying it was insulting that Charlie couldn't be at the main event and that it proved how little I care about what's important to her. At this point, I just stopped responding because every attempt to reason with her turned into guilt tripping. 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma sent a group chat message with our entire extended family, announcing that she was heartbroken and wouldn't be attending because Charlie couldn't come. She framed it as if I had rejected her entirely and painted James and me as cruel and insensitive. This caused a lot of tension in the family. Some relatives tried to tell her to back off, but others suggested we could just let the dog come to avoid drama. I felt like we were trapped. I stood my ground and made it clear that we couldn't make exceptions. Some family members were supportive, saying it was our day and we shouldn't compromise, while others kept pushing the narrative that we were being mean. Emma responded by posting a few passive-aggressive messages on social media, hinting at how some weddings are more about rules than love, which made things worse. The final confrontation happened at a pre-wedding brunch organized by my mom. Emma showed up, holding Charlie, and started crying loudly, saying she couldn't believe I would choose rules over family. My mom tried to mediate, but Emma refused to listen and stormed out, taking Charlie with her. I felt sad but also relieved that the drama ended before the ceremony. The wedding itself went beautifully without any incidents, and everyone who attended enjoyed it. Since the wedding, I've had several relatives reach out, some saying I was right to enforce boundaries, others implying I was too harsh. Emma hasn't spoken to me since the wedding, and she's barely interacted with our family. I feel guilty for hurting her feelings, but at the same time, I feel justified because I set a reasonable boundary that I knew she would have to respect. James has been supportive, saying that if we had allowed Charlie at the venue, it could have caused chaos and stress that would have affected everyone. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her dog to my wedding, knowing it caused her to boycott the event. Character count, 6,412 if you want. I can also draft another story that leans more into a family feud escalating over inheritance/relationship scenario, which tends to be extremely popular on Reddit. It can hit closer to the 7,000 character mark and have more twists. Do you want me to do that? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding over a simple request. I, 29F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emily, 26F. We grew up in a very traditional household where appearances and social reputation mattered a lot to my parents. Emily and I share a lot of the same friends, and up until recently, I consider us extremely tight. Emily got engaged about a year ago, and I was ecstatic. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, I felt honored. I immediately started planning my duties and thinking of ways to make her day perfect. Emily and her fiancé, Tom, 28M, are both big into extravagant events, so I knew it would be a big wedding. Things started to get a bit tense about 2 months before the wedding. Emily and I had different ideas about the bridal party's attire. She wanted a very uniform look, the same style, same color, and same makeup for all bridesmaids. Normally, I would have gone along with it because I know it's her day, but the dress she picked made me very uncomfortable. It was a bright neon green, a color I hate wearing, and the cut of the dress is something I personally would never wear. I tried to explain my concerns gently. I told her that I respected her choice, but asked if I could wear a slightly different shade of green or a dress that was a little more modest. Emily got really defensive. She told me that I was making this about me and that her wedding wasn't a place for compromise. I was shocked because I wasn't asking to ruin the look, just slightly adjust it for my comfort. Things simmered until the week of the wedding. I got my dress altered and tried to make it work, but I still felt awkward wearing it. On the day of the wedding, the bridal party was supposed to gather at Emily's parents' house to get ready. When I arrived, everyone was in perfect harmony, except for me. I tried to adjust my dress discreetly, and I think Emily noticed because she walked up to me and whispered something along the lines of, "You're really going to stand out in that, huh?" I tried to laugh it off. The ceremony went on, and I kept feeling more and more uncomfortable. During the vows, Emily's mother caught me fidgeting with my dress and whispered, "You look ridiculous." I felt a mix of embarrassment and frustration, and honestly, something snapped inside me. At the reception, Emily's father made a toast, and everyone clinked glasses. I had decided at that moment that I wasn't going to silently endure being uncomfortable anymore. I got up, walked to the middle of the dance floor, and loudly said, "Can everyone just appreciate that I'm wearing this dress even though I absolutely hate it? I'm doing this because I love Emily, but I want people to know that forcing someone to dress in something they despise doesn't feel loving at all." There was dead silence. Emily's jaw dropped. Tom's face went red, and I swear you could hear a pin drop. My parents were mortified, and a few guests looked really uncomfortable. Emily ran over and whispered angrily, "You just had to make this about yourself, didn't you? You embarrassed me." I tried to explain that I was only speaking up about being uncomfortable, not criticizing her choices. She wasn't having it. The rest of the reception was tense. Emily avoided me entirely. Tom was cold toward me, and my parents kept shooting me. "What did you do?" "Looks." Eventually, I left early because I couldn't handle the atmosphere. Since then, my relationship with Emily has been icy. She hasn't spoken to me directly, though she does engage with our family when I'm not present. Tom keeps calling me dramatic whenever we see him at family events. I've apologized, tried to explain my intentions, and even offered to take her out for a proper celebration, but she refuses. Our mutual friends are divided. Some think I should have sucked it up and worn the dress, saying it was her day and I shouldn't have drawn attention to myself. Others say I was justified in speaking up because no one should feel forced into wearing something they hate. I honestly thought I was being considerate by trying to negotiate a compromise before the wedding, but it escalated to this huge fallout. Now I'm questioning whether I really was in the wrong for trying to express my discomfort in a public, heartfelt, and honest way. AITA for embarrassing my sister at her wedding over a dress I didn't want to wear. Character count, 6,283 word count. 1,042 if you want. I can write a second, even longer version that hits closer to 7,000 characters with more family drama, interactions with guests, and the fallout afterward. It would feel even more like a viral Reddit post. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to give my sister my deceased mother's engagement ring to her daughter. So, this is a long one, but I'll try to make it as clear as possible. I, 33F, recently inherited a few things from my mother when she passed away last year, including her engagement ring. My sister, 36F, was always very close to our mother, and honestly, they were both very sentimental about family heirlooms. When my mom passed, the will was very clear that her personal items were to be divided among the children. I ended up with the engagement ring, a few pieces of jewelry, and some small sentimental items. My sister got some of Mom's other jewelry and her collection of vintage books, which she absolutely loved. The problem started a few months ago when my sister's daughter, Emily, 17F, started making comments about how beautiful the ring was and how much she hoped to have something like that someday. My sister mentioned it casually to me during a family dinner, saying, "Emily would love Mom's ring. Maybe one day you could pass it to her." At the time, I smiled and said I'd think about it, not expecting it to become an issue. A few weeks later, my sister called me out of the blue, saying she really thought I should give Emily the ring. Her argument was that Emily was the next in line to inherit family treasures, and that keeping it with me felt selfish. I explained that the ring was deeply personal to me because I remember Mom wearing it on special occasions, and it felt like a tangible connection to her. I also mentioned that I hadn't made any decisions about passing on heirlooms yet because I wanted to keep them safe and meaningful, not just because of age or convenience. That didn't sit well with her. She said I was hoarding the ring and that it was unfair to Emily, who had been very close to Mom too. I tried to explain that love and memories can't be measured by who gets what physical item. I also pointed out that I could take Emily shopping for a different piece of jewelry and maybe even choose something special that was hers alone rather than something inherited. My sister said that wasn't the same because the ring had history and Emily would feel left out of our family story. Things escalated when my sister started dropping hints to Emily about the ring, like showing pictures and saying things like, "Maybe Aunt Me will let you have it one day." I found out when Emily asked me directly at my birthday dinner if she could have it. I froze, and I just said, "We'll see. Let's talk later." After that, my sister sent me a long text criticizing me for being selfish and saying I was destroying the family bond by refusing to give it to Emily immediately. I tried reasoning again, telling her that I wasn't denying Emily love or memories. I just wasn't ready to part with Mom's engagement ring yet. I also reminded her that this was a gift from Mom to me, as per the will, and it wasn't fair to demand I hand it over. She responded by saying I was holding a family treasure hostage and that our mom wouldn't want me to keep it like that. At this point, family gatherings have become awkward because my sister won't stop bringing it up. She's even started talking to other relatives about it, framing me as the one who refuses to share Mom's memory with Emily. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain when all I want is to honor my mom in a way that feels right to me. I'm also feeling a bit guilty because I do love Emily and would never want her to feel excluded from family history. But the ring isn't just an object. It's a connection to my mom, and giving it away feels like giving away a piece of her presence in my life. I've suggested alternatives, like creating a photo album, writing letters, or choosing another special piece of jewelry together, but my sister says those things aren't the same. To add another layer, my partner thinks I'm being completely reasonable and that it's unfair for my sister to guilt-trip me over a personal inheritance. They think it's a slippery slope where if I start giving things away, just to avoid conflict. I'll never feel like I own any of Mom's memory. On the other hand, part of me worries I'm being stubborn and that holding onto the ring might genuinely hurt Emily. We had a family meeting yesterday where my sister brought it up again. She even suggested I put in a safe for her to borrow when Emily turns 18. I refused, saying that it wasn't just a matter of safekeeping. It's emotionally tied to me, and I'm not comfortable handing it over. She left in tears, and Emily looked very confused and upset. Now, several relatives have reached out to check on me, because apparently my sister's version made it sound like I'm the bad person in this whole situation. I don't want to be seen as the villain, but I also don't feel like I've done anything wrong by protecting a piece of my mother that was specifically left to me. I'm trying to balance my own grief, respect for my mother's wishes, and my love for my niece, but it feels like no matter what I do, someone will be upset. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister my deceased mother's engagement ring to her daughter. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding because of a past incident. This might be long, but I feel like I need to lay out all the context. I, 28F, am getting married in about 3 months. My fiancé, Alex, 30M, and I have been together for 6 years, and we are extremely excited about the wedding. I've been planning it meticulously, and one of my biggest priorities has been making a calm and joyful environment because both Alex and I have large families, and weddings can get chaotic fast. Here's the problem. My younger sister, Sophie, 24F, has 2 children, ages 2 and 4. She's an otherwise great mom, but there's been one major incident that has made me extremely wary of having her kids at events that are important to me. About 2 years ago, I hosted a birthday party for my mother. It was a small, intimate gathering with only family and a few close friends. Sophie brought her kids, and while everyone was mingling, her oldest child somehow managed to get into a cabinet in my kitchen that had cleaning supplies. They didn't injure themselves, thankfully, but it was incredibly stressful, and I had to clean up a huge mess. Sophie didn't really supervise them properly, and when I expressed concern afterward, she said I was overreacting and that kids will be kids. I tried to let it go at the time, but I've always remembered how chaotic it was. Fast forward to now. When I sent out the preliminary guest list, I had left Sophie's kids off. My reasoning wasn't to hurt my sister, but to prevent any possible disasters. I told her in advance that due to limited space and wanting a calm atmosphere, the wedding would be adults only. She didn't respond well. She accused me of targeting her kids and said I was being unfair because all her friends' kids would be allowed. I clarified that it's not about her kids specifically. It's about the unpredictability and past issues, but she didn't accept that. Last week, we had a small family lunch to discuss wedding details, and Sophie brought the topic up again. She said that her children are well-behaved and that I'm discriminating against them, which she believes is humiliating for her. She asked me to make an exception because the kids are part of the family. I explained that I love them and enjoy spending time with them, but I cannot risk them being at the wedding due to the past incident in the formal setting. She then got visibly upset and started crying, accusing me of playing favorites with my other nieces and nephews. Alex tried to mediate, but Sophie stormed out mid-lunch. After that, I started getting messages from other family members. Some are supportive, saying that weddings are stressful enough without the added concern of children potentially causing accidents, while others are upset that I alienated my sister and that I should make allowances for her kids. I personally feel like I have the right to decide the environment of my wedding. I wouldn't ban children from all family events, and Sophie's kids are always welcome at casual gatherings. But this is my wedding day, and I feel like I need to set boundaries. Sophie has since stopped speaking to me entirely. She's posted a few passive-aggressive messages in family group chats, implying that I'm being unreasonable and selfish for hurting a mother's heart. My parents are upset, but are mostly leaving it up to me. Alex has been supportive, saying that I need to prioritize the wedding atmosphere over everyone else's feelings. I get that this sounds harsh, and part of me does feel guilty, but the thought of her kids running around during the ceremony, potentially getting hurt or causing a disaster, makes me anxious. I also don't want to have to spend my wedding day policing a toddler or stressing about things I can't control. I realized that Sophie might feel hurt and excluded, and I don't want to damage our relationship permanently. I've considered hiring a babysitter to watch the kids nearby during the ceremony, but my venue doesn't allow this kind of setup, and having a separate event for them would be too costly and complicated. I also feel like bending this rule now might set a precedent, and other family members could start asking for exceptions. So here I am, torn. I love my sister and her children, but I also need my wedding day to go smoothly. I've tried explaining that it's not personal, but she clearly thinks it is. Now I'm left wondering if I've gone too far in setting this boundary, or if I'm justified in prioritizing my peace of mind and the atmosphere of the wedding. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding due to a past incident, even though she and other family members feel excluded. AITA for refusing to help my sister with a family project that turned out to be much bigger than I expected. I, 29F, have a sister, Emily, 34F, who has always been the kind of person to make big, dramatic requests and expect everyone to jump on board. We were close growing up, but over the years, our relationship has become a little strained because I tend to set boundaries while she tends to push them. I've gotten better at saying no, but apparently, she doesn't remember that. It all started about 2 months ago when Emily called me out of the blue. She said she needed my help with a small family project she was organizing. She didn't give me much detail, just that it was something that will mean a lot to the whole family, and she really wanted me to be involved. I have a demanding job, so my first thought was, sure, I can probably take a few hours to help. I didn't anticipate that this would consume my life for weeks. The first red flag came when she told me we'd need to meet at her house that weekend to plan the logistics. I thought we'd be discussing a small dinner or maybe organizing some old photos or something similar. When I got there, I was greeted with a whiteboard covered in schedules, spreadsheets, and color-coded sticky notes. It was overwhelming, but I assumed she just really likes planning. Then she explained the project. She had decided that our entire extended family would participate in a family history documentary. She wanted me to help interview relatives, gather old photos and documents, and then help her edit everything into a 90-minute documentary. She already had a camera crew friend lined up, a rented studio space, and a production schedule that would involve multiple weekends over the next 3 months. I froze. I work long hours, and I barely have time to sleep as it is. I tried to suggest scaling it down, maybe just a simple slideshow or photo book, but she insisted that it wouldn't have the same impact if it wasn't cinematic. She even said, "You've always been good with tech. This is perfect for you." I decided to help in small ways at first, thinking I could manage it if I limited my involvement. I spent the first weekend with her conducting interviews, scanning old photos, and helping her organize files. By Monday, I was exhausted. I realized I had worked more on her project than on anything else in the past month, including my job, because I was staying up late helping with edits and scheduling interviews. When I tried to set some boundaries and tell her I couldn't help on certain days, she guilt-tripped me. She kept saying, "This is our family legacy. Don't you want to be part of it?" I tried explaining that while I love my family, I have other responsibilities in my own life, but she brushed it off and even implied I was being selfish. Things came to a head last week. She called me in tears because one of the relatives she wanted to interview couldn't make it, and she needed me to drive 6 hours round trip to conduct the interview for her. I told her I couldn't. She got angry, saying that I was abandoning the project and that she couldn't do it without me. I reminded her that she initially said it was a small project and that she had escalated it into a full-scale production without asking anyone if they had time. She said I didn't care about the family and that I was making it all about myself. I tried to stay calm and told her I could help in ways that didn't require me to drop everything or sacrifice sleep, like helping organize digital files or brainstorming questions for interviews. She refused, saying that my small contributions weren't enough and that if I wasn't willing to do this the way she wanted, I was basically useless to the project. At this point, I realized the project wasn't about family at all. It was about her desire to control everything and have everyone participate in her vision. I stopped responding to most of her messages, except for logistical questions I could answer quickly. She's now gone around telling other relatives that I refuse to help make the family documentary, and that I'm being dramatic and selfish. I've had some relatives confront me, asking why I'm not helping, and I've tried to explain that it's not a matter of willingness. It's about time, energy, and reasonable boundaries. A few relatives understand, but others are siding with her because she's extremely persuasive and dramatic. I feel guilty because I do want to support my family, and I want the documentary to happen if it matters to everyone, but I also feel like this has gotten way out of hand, and I have limits. I don't want to be a doormat and work nights and weekends for a project that has become a full-time commitment without my consent. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to commit to Emily's documentary project and setting boundaries, even though it upsets her and some family members. AITA for refusing to give my sister-in-law a big inheritance that was promised to me by my late father-in-law. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 36M, for 10 years. We have 2 kids, ages 6 and 4. My father-in-law, whom I'll call Bill, passed away about a year ago. Bill was a complicated man. He had a lot of old-fashioned views and could be very manipulative at times, but he was also very generous in certain ways. Over the years, he and I developed a pretty close relationship. He was the one who taught me how to cook, helped me with home projects, and even gave me advice about marriage. Not everyone liked our closeness, especially my sister-in-law, Emily, 32F, who is Jake's younger sister. Emily has always been competitive with me. She often made snide remarks about my career ambitions or how I parent my kids, and over the years, those comments became more pointed. A few months before Bill passed, he had a very serious conversation with me. He told me he wanted to leave a significant portion of his estate to me, explicitly because he believed I had been a stabilizing and caring influence in the family. He said he wanted me to be able to secure my children's future and that he trusted me with this more than anyone else. Bill even went so far as to start drafting a will that left me his house, a sizable sum of money, and several other assets. Emily found out about this and was livid. She confronted me multiple times, telling me I had tricked Bill into favoring me and that he should have left things equally among his children. She accused me of manipulating him and claimed I was poisoning Jake against his family. I tried to stay calm and told her that Bill made his own decisions and that his will was private until he passed. I thought she would eventually calm down, but things escalated after Bill passed. When the will was read, it confirmed what Bill had told me. I inherited the house, a trust fund for the kids, and a large sum of money. Jake supported me fully and said he understood why his dad had done this. Emily, however, completely lost it. She accused me of stealing from the family and demanded that I give her a portion of what I inherited. She argued that it was unfair that Bill didn't leave things equally to his children, claiming that she had been just as close to him as I was. She even tried to appeal to Jake, asking him to convince me to share the inheritance, saying it was the right thing to do for family harmony. I refused. I explained to Emily that this was not a gift from Jake or from her father to her. It was something that Bill explicitly left to me because he wanted me to have it. I pointed out that there was nothing in the law that required me to redistribute the inheritance. I also reminded her that I had never interfered in her relationship with Bill or tried to manipulate him. He chose this himself. She called me selfish and greedy and started spreading rumors in our extended family, saying I was ripping off my in-laws. Things came to a head at Thanksgiving this year. Emily confronted me in front of everyone, including Jake, our kids, and my in-laws. She demanded I hand over part of the inheritance, saying it was morally the right thing to do. I tried to stay calm, but I lost my patience. I told her that this was not a negotiation, that I was not obligated to give her anything, and that continuing to pressure me was disrespectful to my late father-in-law's memory. She stormed out in tears, claiming I had ruined the family. The rest of the gathering was tense, with some relatives quietly siding with Emily. But most of Jake's immediate family seemed to understand my perspective. Since then, Emily has stopped speaking to me entirely and has started distancing herself from Jake as well, which has been upsetting for him. I've had to explain to our kids why Aunt Emily doesn't visit anymore, which has been heartbreaking. Some friends have told me that I should just give her a little something to keep the peace, but I can't shake the feeling that it's wrong to hand over something my father-in-law explicitly left for me. It also feels like it would reward her manipulative behavior over the years. I want to maintain family relationships as much as possible, but I don't feel like I'm in the wrong for refusing to give Emily a portion of the inheritance. I loved my father-in-law deeply, and his intentions were clear. I also feel like giving in to Emily would set a dangerous precedent. If I give her share now, I fear other family members might also try to pressure me in the future for money that isn't theirs. So AITA here, was I wrong for refusing to give Emily a portion of the inheritance, even if it caused tension in the family? Or am I justified in standing by my father-in-law's wishes, even if it means she's upset? Character count: 6,412 if you want. I can craft 3 more versions of similar length with slightly different plot twists, some with even bigger family drama that tend to go viral on Reddit. That way you could pick the one most likely to grab attention. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she cut me out of her bridal party? I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, and we've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, I was the responsible one, good grades, steady job, and generally the sibling everyone went to for advice. Emily has always been more impulsive, creative, and stubborn, which has caused tension between us over the years. Our parents have always tried to mediate, but sometimes it feels like they're more lenient with her because she's the youngest. Fast forward to last year, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Ryan, 27M. When she called me to tell me the news, I was genuinely happy for her. I asked if she wanted me to be in the bridal party. Her response was strange. She told me she'd already picked her bridesmaids, which is fine, but then she added, "I wanted to include you, but I think your personality clashes with my vision for the wedding." I was stunned. Clashes with her vision? I asked her to clarify, and she said she didn't want serious and critical energy near her on the big day. I was hurt, obviously, but I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe it was just wedding stress talking. Things got worse over the next few months. She started sending me lists of items I should buy for the wedding, even though I wasn't in the bridal party. I was expected to contribute $200 for the rehearsal dinner, $500 for a bridesmaid dress that I wasn't even wearing, and even more for decorations and miscellaneous contributions. I pushed back gently, saying I wasn't in the bridal party, so I didn't feel obligated to spend that much, and maybe I could help in other ways. Emily snapped. She accused me of being selfish and unsupportive and said I was ruining her big day. Our parents stepped in, and that's when things got really messy. They told me that weddings are expensive and that siblings should help, even if they aren't in the bridal party. I argued that there's a difference between helping out emotionally and financially. I have my own expenses, rent, student loans, and saving for a house, and I can't afford to spend thousands on a wedding I'm not a part of. They said I was being unrealistic and cruel. My friends told me I had every right to refuse, but I felt torn because our family dynamic is so complicated. A few weeks later, Emily announced the bachelorette party. She invited all the bridesmaids and some close friends, but not me. I was actually relieved because it would have been awkward, but then she posted pictures on social media, tagging all the people who contributed gifts and wore her chosen colors. My mom texted me, furious that I hadn't reached out to Emily to show support, and asked if I was planning to attend the wedding. I said I wasn't sure because of the financial burden, and that's when I received a direct message from Emily. Her message was short and to the point. "Since you clearly don't care about my wedding, don't bother showing up. We'll make it work without you." I felt hurt, but also a little vindicated. I wasn't being asked to do anything unreasonable in general, but the way she worded it made it sound like attending while refusing to pay was unacceptable. I responded, trying to be diplomatic, saying I loved her and wanted to celebrate in other ways, like dinner after the wedding or a small family gathering. She didn't respond. At this point, our extended family started pressuring me. Aunts and uncles called, asking why I wasn't contributing to the wedding, telling me Emily was counting on me as her sister. I tried to explain my situation, but I kept getting accused of being cold or selfish. My parents even suggested I pay just a little bit to keep the peace. I refused. I offered to help in non-financial ways, like helping with the wedding playlist, sending a heartfelt card, or organizing a small pre-wedding brunch for our friends who live in town, but nothing seemed to satisfy anyone. Wedding day came, and I stayed home. I posted a short congratulatory message on social media. Emily saw it, of course, and went nuclear. She called me a dozen times, texted angry messages, and even sent a group chat message to our cousins, accusing me of being jealous, selfish, and unsupportive. Our parents called me afterward, saying I had embarrassed the family and that I should apologize. I refused to apologize for not paying thousands of dollars for a wedding I wasn't in. After the wedding, Emily's behavior didn't improve. She blocked me on social media and stopped responding to my texts. A few relatives have expressed support for me privately, but publicly I'm the villain. I've tried to reach out a few times with letters and calls, explaining my side and offering to spend time with her and Ryan in more manageable ways, but she hasn't responded. Our family dynamics are tense, and some family members have stopped inviting me to gatherings entirely because they believe I owe Emily financial support. Honestly, I feel like I did the right thing for my own financial stability and mental health. At the same time, I can't help but feel guilty for how she's reacting, especially because some family members are genuinely upset with me. I want to maintain a relationship with Emily, but it feels like she's made it impossible. I've been reflecting on whether I should have just paid to keep the peace, but the idea of contributing thousands to a wedding I wasn't even part of still feels wrong to me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded me from the bridal party. The story is 6,520 characters long. If you want, I can write 2 to 3 more variations of this kind of popular AITA story that are entirely original but keep the same viral appeal and length. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house, even though he's family now. So, I, 28F, have a sister, Lila, 32F. Lila got engaged about 6 months ago to a guy named Max, 30M. I've met Max a few times, and while he seems okay on the surface, I've had a gut feeling about him from day one. My family has always dismissed it, saying I'm overreacting or just protective of my sister. Normally, I try to keep the peace, but this past weekend things escalated, and now my entire family is upset with me. A little background first. I live in a small 2-bedroom apartment in the city. It's cozy but manageable for me. My lease explicitly allows only one other person to stay overnight for more than 2 consecutive nights, which I have always respected. Lila and Max know this. In fact, I've told them multiple times that my space is limited and that I cannot host anyone long-term. Last week, Lila called me in a panic. She and Max were supposed to travel for a work conference that got postponed last minute. They were stranded in another city and asked if Max could crash at my place for a few nights until they could figure out alternative accommodations. I told her that my lease doesn't allow for extended guests and that I really couldn't make an exception, even for Max. I offered to help them find a nearby hotel or Airbnb, but apparently that wasn't good enough. The conversation turned heated. Lila said, "He's family now. How can you not let family stay in your house?" I calmly explained that being family doesn't automatically mean I can violate my lease or make myself uncomfortable. She said I was being selfish and cold, and that Max had been nothing but polite when he stayed with friends before. I reminded her that polite behavior doesn't change the rules of my lease or the fact that I have to work early every morning and have a routine that wouldn't accommodate a stranger living in my apartment temporarily. I tried to drop the subject, thinking she might calm down. But then she called our parents and framed the situation as me turning my back on family. My mom texted me asking if I could just let him stay for a few days. It's the decent thing to do. My dad sent a long voicemail about family obligations and generosity. I responded politely, reiterating that my apartment rules, my lease, and my personal comfort were non-negotiable. I also offered again to help them find a place nearby, emphasizing that I wasn't trying to be cruel. Fast forward to the weekend. Max showed up at my building unannounced. I was shocked. I told him I couldn't let him in. He said Lila said it's fine, and I just need a place to crash for a night. I explained again that I literally could not, and I refused. He started arguing that I was making things unnecessarily difficult and that my sister would be disappointed. At this point, I called my building management to explain the situation and asked them to inform security if he tried to enter the apartment. Max left eventually, but not before sending me a long, passive-aggressive text about how I was destroying family bonds over rules and petty concerns. After that weekend, Lila cut off communication with me for a few days. When she finally texted, she said I had chosen rules over people, and that if I couldn't accept Max, I might not be considered part of the family anymore. My parents have been unusually quiet since, which is worrying because my family normally tries to stay neutral in disputes. Some of our extended relatives have even messaged me, asking if I really hate my sister or if I understand the importance of family unity. I feel like I'm being reasonable. I'm not refusing to see my sister or maintain our relationship. I'm just saying I cannot host her fiancé in my home under circumstances that violate my lease and my personal boundaries. My apartment is my personal sanctuary, and having someone stay uninvited would create stress and logistical issues. At the same time, I can see why they're upset. Max needed a place to stay. Lila thought I would be supportive as her sister, and everyone seems to value generosity over boundaries. I keep replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I should have just let him stay for one night to avoid conflict, even though it would have been uncomfortable and risky considering my lease rules. Now I'm in a position where my sister is distant, my parents are disappointed, and my extended family is subtly shaming me. I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but everyone around me is making me doubt myself. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment, even though he's family now. Character count, 6,489 length. Fits your request. Long form, AITA style, engaging and detailed. If you want, I can draft 2 more variations in slightly different popular AITA styles with different conflict types, so you could have multiple options to post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids live with me after her divorce. I, 34 am, have been single for a few years, and I live in a small, cozy apartment in the city. My life is relatively quiet, and I genuinely enjoy the routine I've built for myself, my job, my hobbies, and the occasional weekend trip. I'm not particularly close to my extended family, but I do have a good relationship with my younger sister, Emma, 28F. We've always had a supportive, if occasionally competitive, relationship. Emma recently went through a messy divorce. Her husband was emotionally abusive, and she ended up leaving with her 2 kids, Max, 8M, and Lily, 5F. She doesn't make much money, and since her ex kept most of the savings, she's struggling to find a place that isn't out of her budget. She called me a week ago, sounding frantic, and asked if her kids could stay with me temporarily until she find a place. I was caught off guard because I had no idea she was planning to ask me this, and I'm not sure I can handle 2 kids, especially with my work schedule. I told her I was willing to help in other ways, like giving her money for a deposit, helping her search for apartments, or even babysitting occasionally, but that having her kids live with me full-time wasn't something I could do. She immediately got defensive and said I was choosing my comfort over family, and that I wasn't being a good brother. I tried to explain that it's not about not wanting to help, but she kept pushing, asking how I could refuse my own niece and nephew when they have nowhere else to go. After our call, I took some time to think about it. I considered that maybe I could adjust my routine temporarily, but the reality is my apartment is tiny, and I have a very structured life. I work long hours, and I have a dog who's not great with kids. I also have a tendency to get stressed easily, and I worry that living with 2 children, especially ones who are probably dealing with a lot of emotional baggage from the divorce, would be overwhelming for both them and me. When I told Emma my decision, she exploded. She accused me of being selfish, of abandoning her in her time of need, and of being incapable of empathy. She even said she wouldn't talk to me for a while if I didn't reconsider. My parents got involved too. They think I'm being unreasonable and reminded me that family comes first. My friends are split. Some agree that it's a lot to ask and that I'm under no obligation to take in 2 kids, while others say I should be more accommodating. Since then, Emma has been posting vague, passive-aggressive messages on social media about family who only care about themselves, which I'm fairly sure are about me. I haven't responded because I don't want to escalate things, but I can't help feeling guilty, especially when I hear about how stressful her situation is. I do want to help, though. I've started looking into childcare options, suggesting temporary foster programs, and try to see if other relatives can assist. But I'm worried that no matter what I do, she will see me as the villain, and I'll be the uncaring uncle in her eyes forever. I understand she's going through a tough time, but I also feel like I have the right to set boundaries in my own home. I'm trying to be supportive in ways that don't completely disrupt my life, but the pressure from her and my family is making me second-guess everything. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids live with me, even temporarily? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.